Hello, Peter4790 Cyrus here, and welcome to my review of The Last Story. I was initially very interested in this game, with it being one of the game in Operation Rainfall, but then got a bit annoyed with it with how the release date for this game for North America release was constantly changing. But after waiting for this game to be in stores, I finally got the game on the 20th of August, which was a Monday. Now, after doing a playthrough of the game, I would like to give my overall opinion of the game. The Last Story is an RPG with real-time combat that is developed by both Mistwalker and Eiko Interactive and published by Exceed Games. It is available on Nintendo Wii.
What's going on?
Graphically, the game looks great for Nintendo Wii. The character models look fantastic, and the animations are also great. Especially with how you can run into people, or how you can get the main character to actually run into a signpost. The one flaw of the overall visuals is probably the environments, with how samey they can feel at the start of the game, and how the overall color palette of the game can make the environments look a bit dull at times. Legend design is also pretty good in The Last Story, with how you can use several of the environments to help you defeat enemies. It's also pretty straightforward most of the time, so you won't get lost when you're traversing through them. The overall cutscene also looked pretty good, and the FMV looked fantastic for the Nintendo Wii. The story in The Last Story is also pretty good. The Last Story takes place on Leslie Island, which is part of the Empire. Yes, it's just called the Empire. The overall setting might seem generic, but the game does surprisingly give a good amount of backstory to the foundations of the Empire and the overall world of The Last Story. Anyway, you play as Zeo, a member of a mercenary group. He dreams of one day, along with his friend Dagran, of becoming knights of the Empire. During his mission to eliminate a bunch of monsters for the Count of Leslie Island, one of his allies in the mercenary group he belongs to gets mortally injured. Zeo's desire to try to save his teammate suddenly awakens a mysterious spirit, which gives him a strange power, which enables him to save his allies. And so begins Zeo's journey of becoming a knight. Overall, the story isn't something new. It's been done before, but it's being done right in The Last Story, which makes the story pretty good and entertaining. The pacing in The Last Story is also tight, and I never thought that one part of the game was rushing or one was too long. The characters are great, as each character are pretty unique from each other, and each have a likable personality. Though I did find that some of their backstory didn't get explained, like Lowell or Serene. But the character banter almost makes up for the lack of backstory for some of the characters.
The muffin she wanted after that fight with the pig. Mate, what girl's gonna like you if you actually can? You made a promise, so you keep it. She ate 214 of them.
Voice acting in The Last Story is also fairly good and different, with it being voiced in the UK, like Xenoblade Chronicles. The soundtrack in The Last Story is great, with its epic orchestral score, with the main theme of The Last Story being one of my favorite tracks in the game. Overall, The Last Story got pretty good presentation with its great graphics, great animations, and good characters, though it's held back with how dull the environments can be at times.
Wait! Don't eat me! I taste terrible! LOL! There's a girl I know! She's some real prime beef!
Damn it, LOL!
I first go into the combat system of The Last Story. Oh yeah, also note I won't be reviewing the multiplayer side of The Last Story since I don't really have internet connection for my Nintendo Wii. Anyway, The Last Story uses a real-time combat system which mixes the cover system of a third-person shooter, a shooting mechanic of a third-person shooter in the form of a crossbow, a hack and slash in the form of melee combat, and strategy in terms of positioning, the gathering game mechanic, and command mode. Oh yeah, note that there are two control schemes you can go with this game, which is either normal or manual. I personally chose manual since I feel I have more control of my character that way, but I will say what the difference between the mode is. Basically, normal gives you the ability to auto-attack enemy when you near them, and manual is, well, manual, where you have to hit the A button in order to attack. Note that in normal, you can choose between the different type of enemies to attack by directing the control stick in the general direction of the enemy, and that taking cover in auto is the A button, while manual is the down direction on the D-pad. Anyway, I finally get to the combat system itself. It surprisingly mixes up the different elements I mentioned very well. In combat, it plays like most action RPGs, well outside of the auto attack, in terms of melee combat, where you're able to attack, defend, and dodge in real time. You'll also be able to activate Xiao's Gather ability, which forcibly makes every enemy on the map to target you, which will make your ally mages time to cast the elemental circles, which will get me to the Gale mechanic. I first explain elemental circles. They're basically spells that your mages will cast, and when you're in them, your attack will be amplified, such as starting York's Fire Elemental Circle will give your allies fire attribute attacks. When your allies cast their elemental circles, you will also have the ability to defuse them, which will give you various bonuses, such as defusing Callista Holy Spell will give you and your allies barrier. Defusing a heal circle will heal all your allies and get rid of any nasty status elements you have. But also note that defusing elemental circle will make that circle disappear. So you have to think if defusing that elemental circle is the right thing to do at that instance. Also note that your enemy can cast elemental circle as well. Also note that using Gale uses 1 bar your SP bar, so be wary of that, though SP bar fills up pretty quickly in battle. There's also a cover mechanic, which will give you the ability to use the slash ability, which can be pretty useful at times. Getting into cover will also let you use your crossbow more easily, and the third person shooting mechanic of the crossbow is pretty good. Not the greatest, but it's serviceable. And the crossbow is useful at times with the different type of arrows you can use against the enemy, such as using the Wizard Destroy and making short work of their mages, or using burst arrow for environmental damage. You can even use the prank banana on NPCs to make them trip, which can be pretty funny. You can even use them against enemies as well, which is surprisingly really useful. Next, I go into the command mode. When your SP bar is full, you're able to go to command mode by pressing the up directional pad on the D-pad. When you're in this mode, you will be able to command each of your ally to do specific actions. Your mage's casting time will be cut significantly, which can be extremely beneficial to you when you're in battle. Such as, their cast time is usually 20 seconds. Their cast time will be cut to 3 or 5 seconds if you use command mode, so very useful. And the battle system gets progressively better as you learn vertical slash and special attacks. Overall, the combat system is great. It's fast paced and really engaging with how many different type of gameplay mechanics it's mixed in it. And each of them really meshes well with each other. But I have one major problem with the combat system, and that problem is the frame rate. There were quite a number of moments, which are probably when there's tons of enemies you have to deal with, where the frame rate really drops in the game. That kind of soured the experience for me. It's not too prevalent, but it's pretty noticeable when you're playing through the game. The leveling system in the last story is a pretty simple leveling system where you get enough EXP, you level up, and the higher level you get, the more skills you learn. The customization is also pretty good with how you can change the color of each individual clothes and armor you're wearing. You can even remove some parts as well to mix and match it to your taste. Exploration wise, it's pretty limited as the entire game is revolved around Leisure's Island, and it's really only one town to explore. Difficulty wise, I found the last story to be around the normal difficulty. Likewise, the last story is kind of a short game. Like I said before, the pacing is good, and I never felt that each individual chapter was too long and too short. But the last story is still a pretty short game, with me being able to complete the game in 22 hours with doing a good amount of side quests. Overall, the last story got great gameplay with its unique combat system, but got some flaws to it such as the frame rate issues and limited exploration. Overall, the last story is a pretty good to great game. It got a good story, even though it has been done before, fantastic graphics for Nintendo Wii, a good cast of characters, and a unique combat system that is tons of fun to play through. There are issues that holds it back, such as how dull the environments can be, limited exploration, and the frame rate issues. But overall, I say it's a game that's worth owning if you got a Nintendo Wii. I personally give the last story an 8 out of 10. An RPG that has a pretty good story and a very unique combat system, but it's held back by a few stuff.